Welcome to the Running Hook Podcast with Alex Burr. Welcome back to the Running Hook Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Burr, and joining me for the second week in a row, the first time this has ever happened, but seeing as he's coming back next week, it certainly won't be the last. It's Bryce Shadday.
Thanks for having me back on, AB. Very excited about this week.
This Jordan documentary process is just so much fun, and I think it's fair to say we both love sports documentaries. You probably love them a little more than I, but I think this documentary has just been so exciting for me, the whole process of watching the documentary and watching some stuff I didn't know and watching some stuff I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm huge into sports documentaries. You know, if you're a sports fan and, you know, you're about my age, the quickest way to learn about a lot of things is watching documentaries. I mean, ESPN's 30 for 30s have been great. They give you information about some of the big stuff and then some of the small stuff that nobody talks about anymore that probably should talk about. But yeah, the Jordan documentary has been unlike anything I've seen. Probably the closest thing has been the O.J. Simpson one. I think that was 6 parts. I thought that was really well done, even though it's kind of a dark theme to it just because of what had happened. But now this Jordan documentary, it's a lot of fun. They got into some dark past of Jordan this week, which I thought was really well talked about and well thought out and planned out by the director. I thought it was really well done.
So let's just tackle each of those one by one then, because the first one they referred to in the documentary was the shoe controversy, where he said, for context, in case you somehow haven't watched this and are listening to this, So in 1990, there was a U.S. Senate race between Harvey Gantt, a black Democrat, running against the incumbent. Oh, crap. It's not good if I don't remember his name. Jesse Helms, I want to say.
Jesse Helms.
Jesse Helms. And so they were running against each other. And this was revealed in the Jordan rules, which we'll get into later also. But the Jordan rules revealed that the team was talking about it, and Jordan he says he said it in jest, but we'll never know the true intention, because I do think he's lying some, but we'll get into that later. And he said it in jest, but he said Republicans buy shoes too. And Jesse Helms, you can say that statement in general, blanket statement, right? Mm-hmm. But Jesse Helms, the documentary goes into the issues he had. That he was against MLK Day. He was against segregation in schools in 1990.
Yeah.
We're not talking like 1965.
Yes. It's all progressive at this point, right?
And I honestly thought the documentary handled it well. And I mean, having Obama obviously didn't grow up in Chicago, but having his presence, he was in Chicago at the same time Michael Jordan was. Right. And having that presence and having him be there. And because whatever you think of Obama, the man's a good talker.
Oh, absolutely.
Him talking is better than 99.9% of people on this earth talking. And especially on a subject that he knows a whole lot about. So I thought they handled that one well. What did you think about how they handled the gambling stuff?
Honestly, I thought that was the best segment of the 2 episodes. I thought it was really well done. I don't know, some of it, they got so deep into it, and I thought they methodically placed certain parts of it where, I don't know, it just stuck out to me out of the whole thing. I know it probably wasn't everybody's, favorite thing to listen to and talk about, because we want to remember Michael Jordan as, the greatest basketball player on the planet Earth and the greatest of all time. And that's great. But everybody has baggage. I don't care who you are. And to their point in the documentary, once you reach the top, you're on the pedestal. Everybody's trying to chip away at it and knock you down. Do I feel like some of that was probably blown out of proportion back when it first happened? Absolutely. But Michael Jordan is standing by it today. And that's what I kind of like about Jordan is he stands by what he's done. Do I think there was a gambling problem? Yeah. I don't think it's just a competitive problem because if gambling's so easy to stop, why didn't you stop? So I do think that was a little much, but that's just me.
I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem is just a funny way to word it. Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's literally the same thing. But I thought, so the Atlantic City thing, they devote a lot of time to that when they could have just explained it in this simple way. It's not that big of a deal because these guys, I don't remember where I heard this, but it's stuck with me. So you have to think about, like, most people when they go to work, right? They work 8 to 5. These NBA players, when they go to work, they're usually working from about 12 till 9:30, 11 for the guys that have to stick around and do media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So their body peaks around, Jalen Rose said it. That's who said it. And it makes sense because we all know Jalen Rose, world-class partier.
Yes.
But Jalen said, he's like, that's why everyone stays up till 3, 4 in the morning partying and stuff, because you not only are you up till 7, you just did something that fills your body with an incredible amount of testosterone. Mm-hmm. So like, Michael's like, oh yeah, I only stayed out till 1. No, you didn't. That's okay. It's really he didn't stay out till 1, or that he stayed out later than 1, because I'm not going to call him a liar on a lot of the things. I'll say most of it was his own version of the truth. That was an out and out lie. He was definitely out till 2:30 in the Atlantic City, and nothing wrong with that.
Right. Phil obviously didn't have a problem with it. And this is why, again, I think Phil is the best basketball coach in NBA history, is because he understands what his players need and what they want. Right. I mean, not only to mention, Michael Jordan, he's going to give you everything he's got on the basketball court. What does it matter how late he stays up?
Right.
Right. And not to mention, once you throw fuel on his fire, like, he could have a small little flame, and that small little flame is going to get you 30 points a game, right? But you add fuel to that, okay, you just increased it by maybe another 15 points, like 45, easy, right? And that's exactly what happened. He went out and he completely went out and played out of his mind again. I mean, I don't think it should have been that big of a deal. But again, as members, as aspiring members of the media, such as ourselves, right? We're looking for something to write about, right? And that's exactly what happened there. So I really didn't have an issue with it. I think, once we get to more of his father's life and the end of his father's life, I think this is where it's going to become an issue, and where the gambling probably should have stopped a lot sooner.
I definitely agree, but I saw a tweet, and it was talking about the guy Slim Buller. And that guy Slim Buller is just like the coolest guy I've ever seen and probably ever will see. Just like, his name Slim.
Yeah, right. Just his name alone. Yeah.
But then you add into the fact that he walks to the courthouse in golf clothes. Like, he was wearing, he walked up to his trial in golf clothes.
He's ready, man.
The man was just incredibly, like, I think my respect for Michael Jordan went up 10 prongs, because you deal with a guy that cool and you're already Michael Jordan cool. It just puts you up another level for me.
Also, that you also know that guy, just his name alone, that guy's a shyster, man. He's about to hustle you out of some money, and he took a lot of Michael's money, it sounds like.
I don't think, because they showed in episode 6, they showed Michael Jordan on the golf course. They definitely have video of him cheating. That's
yeah, I did notice that after the fact.
He definitely cheats at golf. They didn't really. I don't know what cheating at golf is, but I'm sure there's no way he does it. B, he didn't seem that good. I figured if you golfed that much as he did, you turn into like Tiger Woods.
Or at least like Tony Romo, right? Playing on the pro circuit a little bit, you know?
He played 36 holes. They would have been in Phoenix had home court in 93. So he played 36 holes, I'm pretty sure, before every game that they had in Phoenix. Like
it's crazy to me, but also, I mean, why can't you just play golf for bragging rights? Why does it have to be for money?
Because I think we'll get into the Dream Team later, because the Dream Team just was. I thought that was the best part of these two episodes, was the Dream Team segments for me. That was my favorite part. And Magic was saying it. And I thought Magic should have had a lot more shots when it came to talking, because he was just he's like, Michael wasn't just trying to win. He was trying to step on your throat. And he didn't finish the quote because Magic likes to talk in exclamations, but he's like, Magic likes to step on your throat and go, ah! It was like... And that
speaks to him.
And if anybody knows how competitive Michael Jordan is, it's Magic Johnson. That, I think that's actually a good transition. That Dream Team practice, I want to watch that whole thing. I want that to be leaked to the internet, and I want it to watch. I'd watch it 10 times.
Right. I mean, the director got a whole hour of that. Imagine at least having just the hour that he watched. Yeah, I think it would have what 20 million plus views just on YouTube if it got leaked. I mean, just to watch something like that. I mean, I love hearing, the Magic Johnson jabs at Michael. I love that. It kind of speaks to the competitor that Magic is. We don't really see that side of him very often. And so I really enjoyed seeing that a lot.
And it was you could tell that Magic knew he poked the bear, but Magic's too competitive. And Magic hadn't played for a whole year. Magic joined the Dream Team, I believe, after his HIV diagnosis. So he hadn't played for a year and a half. But Magic's ego was so huge that he couldn't let himself believe that he wasn't the best player on that court. And that to me is I just would have watched it for those two alone. I mean, they had the footage because I read Jack McCallum's Dream Team book, and the complaint that he says in there, he's like, it's like they moved Chicago Stadium to Monte Carlo. That's all they did. Everything that was in that book was in that scrimmage, and it just was I'd watch the whole thing. That scrimmage is what we want All-Star games to be.
Right, yeah. Hard playing. The closest thing that we've gotten to that was probably the fourth quarter of this last All-Star game. Mm-hmm. When there was some stakes on the line. Yeah, you saw some good defense, you saw some good offense. That's what I think everyone is hoping for out of the All-Star game, and we just haven't gotten it. But I think the format they have now, I mean, that's obviously a different topic for a different time, of course. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, that scrimmage, it's all legend at this point. We got bits and pieces here and there, but it's all just legend until they finally decide to release it.
And just think about the matchups, right? Because all these guys were in their prime. I'd even give Magic his prime, since Magic was...
Well, even Larry Bird?
No, Larry Bird didn't play, though. Larry Bird sat on the sideline. I'm talking about the guys that were in the game. So the point guards were Stockton versus Magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had Drexler versus Jordan. And Drexler was about to fall off, but that's a different discussion that I'm not really ready to get into right now. I don't really care to get into.
Nah.
You had Mullen versus Pippen. You had Barkley versus Malone, and you had Robinson versus Ewing. And all those guys were incredible athletes. Every single one of those 10 players I named, with the exception of Stockton, of course. Those other 9 guys, incredible athletes. And then you had them going just head to head I don't remember who was on whose team. You could probably figure out who was on whose team, but like I know Magic and Barkley were on the same team, and it was like because there had to be a ton of elbows. There had to have been a ton of just like chippiness. You know, Stockton stuck his knee out on a pick or two because he always did. But
but after they got on the bus, though, when they were talking about the bus, they say that was some of the best basketball they've ever played. Like, just imagine that, even, playing on our small scales, we go to a rec center and, you got your boys and you're going against, another group of, them and their boys, right? And you're like, man, that was some good basketball. I can't even imagine the feeling that it was to get on the bus and just think, wow, dude, we just played a pickup game. And they probably didn't know that it's going to go down in history as the greatest unknown to us. Especially basketball fans like myself and yourself. So I think just the legend and the mysteriousness behind it, it's going to grow as time goes on until we get it.
And it's going to be like, that game is just, I think the NBA should not sell it, but I don't know who would have the rights to that, but somebody should put it on pay-per-view and people would pay to watch that because no one's ever seen it before.
Absolutely. Or just put it on like Game Pass or something. Mm-hmm. That way you get somebody to you pay for their subscription. There you go. I think it's a great idea. I'm sure the NBA has it. Come on. I know they got it.
There was one from the way McCallum described it in the book. I don't think there were any reporters in there. When they walked in the gym afterwards, they kind of could all tell that something happened, but weren't aware until they heard the stories. Mm-hmm. And it just was the one guy recording it. And obviously Chuck Daly passed, and Chuck Daly passed before 2000. So not very many people that are alive saw that scrimmage, and it's just probably the people that have seen the whole scrimmage is probably under 50.
Yeah, guaranteed.
There's no way anyone has seen the whole scrimmage. There's a whole chapter in McCallum's book where he does the play-by-play of it. Mm-hmm. And so I know he's seen it. I'm sure other reporters have probably seen it, but to just watch the intensity, I just want to see, because we don't get that intensity of those loaded teams. Probably the most intensity you'll see from loaded teams is the 2016 finals, for obvious reasons. But those teams aren't loaded to that extent. Draymond and Clay wouldn't be on the floor. Clay might, but
he'd be the most comparable to a Chris Mullin.
Right, but I probably wouldn't put Draymond. If 10 best American players, definitely not.
No.
That would be an interesting exercise we should try to do sometime, is to see which 10 American players would be comparable. Because you got Giannis mucking it up, you got Luka mucking it up, you got Embiid, Jokic. Those are 4 of consensus top 12 that are foreign.
Right. I think, and I wish, I wish world basketball was more competitive. It really hasn't been. I don't know. I mean, that the 08, was it 08? Yeah, the 08 game against Spain. I mean, that one was close for a while, but I mean, I think the emergence of some of these foreign-born players, I think, should help out a lot, and it'll draw more people to watch.
And I think that's something that they should have included in the documentary too. I know they had to cut through a lot, but they should have interviewed Dirk or Tony Parker or any of these foreign. I mean, those are 2 really the biggest superstars from Europe that we've had. Right. But I mean, interview just any of those guys and just talk about the impact that they had. It'd be better than a Justin Timberlake interview.
Yeah. We should start a segment, the most unnecessary cameos in the documentary, because that was definitely one of them. And I like Justin Timberlake, but boy, that was so unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We didn't need to hear your story about mowing lawns for money or
Yeah.
to get Jordan, so stand in line and get Jordans. We don't care.
You're not the first person to do it either.
And you certainly will not be the last.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad we got some Tony Kukoc though.
Oh,
I got some Kukoc.
That was. I thought the segments that had him in it were incredible. He's like, I didn't do anything to these guys. I don't know why they had it out for me.
Yeah, this guy just wanted to play ball. Like, he just wanted to play ball. And, you know, he's going to the – and what was funny to me is he knew nothing about the Bulls. He knew nothing about the greatness of Michael Jordan. He knew nothing about Pippen. He knew nothing about the championships they won. And then they just want to go out there and absolutely obliterate and demolish this kid for no reason, only to spite Jerry Krause.
Yeah. Yeah, he spites Jerry Krause twice in these 2 episodes. We'll talk about Dan Marley later, but Tony Kukoc didn't deserve what was coming to him.
Absolutely not.
And if you ever want to laugh, look up like the 1990 Yugoslavia team, the last year before the Civil War. And obviously neither of us are qualified to talk about Yugoslavia Civil War. I think that goes without saying. But like the team was stacked because you had Drazen Petrovic, Tony Kukoc,
Rip,
Vlade Divac. Those are like 3 quality NBA players. Petrovic was you ever seen the Two Brothers documentary with Vlade and Drazen? That one was one of the more heartbreaking ones to me. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it.
It's an excellent documentary. If you declare yourself a basketball fan and you haven't seen that documentary, you're obviously not a basketball fan.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody should know Drazen Petrovic.
And I mean, the guy, I think we can both agree for the one season that he got playing time, he was a stud.
Absolutely.
He averaged 22 points a game. And then for those that haven't watched it, he died in 1993 on the Autobahn in Germany. And I think he would have thrived more because the NBA shortened the 3-point line later that decade. And then you have a guy that's a sharpshooter. I mean, you go look at the 3-point shooting numbers, the higher 3-point attempts coincide with the push in of the 3-point line. And that guy was if that documentary made anything clear about Drazen Petrovic, 2 things. He loved Croatia, and that guy could shoot the basketball.
Yep.
They made those 2 things incredibly clear. But back to Tony, it's like he didn't deserve what was coming to him, but I thought it showed really good mental toughness to bounce back after the first game and acquit himself well in the championship game.
Yeah, and I mean, even Jordan gave him props in the doc, saying, you know, hey man, you know, he came back and played us tough, you know, and gained our respect because of it. You know, and also, I mean, I think all the endorsements that Jordan is giving out in this documentary is huge. Like the Isaiah Thomas stuff, which we can obviously get back to. Mm-hmm. You know, saying he's, you know, the second best point guard ever. I mean, that is high praise. I mean, obviously Magic is, you know, he was, I mean, some could say before his time, but he made such an impact on the court when he was there. I think he could transfer to now at today's NBA, honestly. Mm-hmm. But then Isaiah Thomas right after that. I mean, and Jordan's been around some of the best players ever, arguably. So I think the endorsements that Jordan is giving are pretty incredible as well.
And him saying that about Isaiah, we saw it in the last week. He's not one to disguise his dislike for Isaiah Thomas. He's not going to leave that unsaid. He's not going to say, I hate Isaiah Thomas, but he's going to say the nice version of that.
Right. And, you know, I'm cool with him still hating Isaiah. Again, I said that last week. I like it. I'm cool with it. You know, this is who Jordan is, and he's sticking to it, and I like it. I like it a lot.
I think the world knew that Jordan was a psychopath coming into this, I don't think they realized how much, and I don't think I did either. Like, we'd all heard the stories, but man, he just, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. You have to be crazy to be that great.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, you have to admit, Bryce, the man's a little deranged sometimes in his way. The way he's so competitive.
I agree, but I also think it's the cost of being great as well. I think his amount of focus, yes, we look at it as him being a psychopath. Yeah, we're going to look at him as kind of a bad guy, but he's the greatest of all time. We don't, when we think about Michael Jordan, we don't think crazy psychopath, deranged, insane. We think, dude, that guy was amazing. Yeah, so I think it's just the cost of doing business at this point, and his return on investment is us buying his sneakers year after year after year, and him making $100 million every year by not doing anything now.
And the thing is, Larry Bird, exactly the same way. Kobe, exactly the same way. LeBron, we're not entirely sure about, but I can guarantee you he's probably pretty similar to that. Magic and Michael, probably on the basketball court, they're the same person. Off the basketball court, Magic cares more about his image. But Magic is, at his core, he's incredibly cutthroat. He's not gonna take the loss for an answer. And I think those two probably are way closer than either of them would care to admit, just in terms of like their personalities. I think that they're both, just from what I can gather about them, they just seem incredibly similar. And I think, I don't know about you, I like the scene where in the beginning of the 5th episode when they were at the All-Star game and it was him, Larry, and Magic in the locker room. That was, or I guess that would have been in the hallway, but...
Yeah, just kind of jabbing at each other.
Because it was like... Because when Michael came in the league, those were the old guys. And now Michael's the old guy.
Right. I mean, 19-year-old Kobe, right? Or was he 18, 19?
He would have been 19 turning 20. Yeah. He was born in 78.
Yeah, when you look at all the people that were sitting in that locker room, you do look around, you're like, man, Michael was kind of the old guy. Mm-hmm. But I love that little scene because that's the kind of stuff we don't see. You know, all the little banter even after the fact. You know, Magic and Bird are kind of done and Jordan's kind of jabbing at him too. I like all that. And again, the scene in the locker room of Jordan and the East Stars all talking about Kobe, and Jordan just refers to him as the little Laker boy.
I don't think the boys want to take everybody one-on-one. I know, right? We talking about Kobe? Yeah. He don't let the game come to him.
Dude, I mean, we're talking about Kobe Bryant. Obviously, he wasn't, Kobe Bean Bryant yet, but he was working his way up to that. And Jordan goes out and absolutely torches Kobe. Kobe says he wants Jordan, and that's just the competitive drive that Kobe had in him. God rest his soul, man. I miss that guy so much already. But I thought that was a great scene as well. I thought it was really interesting. That's the kind of stuff that I was hoping to get out of this documentary, and it's really delivered so far on that kind of stuff and that kind of content.
I'm looking at the All-Star starters for the East. It was funny because I didn't realize that Shawn Kemp was in a Cleveland uniform by 1998.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that either until later. I saw, I'm like, that was Shawn Kemp, wasn't it? Because we all associate him with the Sonics, of course.
So the East starters were Michael Jordan, Grant Hill, Shawn Kemp, Dikembe Mutombo, and Penny Hardaway. Penny Hardaway played all of 12 minutes, though.
All 12 minutes?
All of 12 minutes.
All of 12. Probably because his knees are so bad.
Poor guy. And then...
ruined career.
Funny all-star, Antoine Walker. I didn't realize that he was a...
I saw him in there as well. Hey, man, that guy could get buckets. I don't care what anybody says. That guy could get buckets.
There was a scene in there where it was Steve Smith talking. They were on the bench. He's like, I don't remember what exactly he said, but he's like, I'm not trying to get dunked on.
Oh, yeah, I'm just going to get out of the way. Yeah, just get out of the way.
And he was like, I think he's like, because I've only seen him on NBA TV, so I never heard him. Obviously, you're not going to hear a guy curse on television.
Right.
Like, shit, I'm not trying to get dunked on by Kobe.
I mean, that just shows the impact that Kobe was having at such a young age, and kind of a foreshadowing of what was to come. And I mean, the Kobe interview that was done for the documentary, I think puts a lot of discussions to bed. And I think Kobe was hoping to do that, saying, look, everything that I got was from him. Like, whoever would win in a one-on-one, it'd probably be Michael, because I'm doing the same stuff. Yeah, that's how much respect Kobe has for Michael Jordan. And I obviously Jordan had respect for Kobe, because Kobe revealed that, hey, call me if you need anything. Yeah, that's the stuff we also don't hear is, yes, Jordan was focused and he was cutthroat and he didn't want anybody to be better than him, but yet he was willing to help somebody like a Kobe Bryant. And I think that spoke volumes to Michael Jordan's character as well. Earned some respect points for me there as for just reaching out to Kobe and telling him that. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I thought Kobe gave a great interview. I was hoping we get a little more Kobe, but again, there's so much to get through, and Kobe really isn't a big subject in this grand scheme of things here.
I'm sure if they did the Wizards season, now that would have a lot of Kobe, because Kobe,
yes,
when he was with the Wizards, that was the last year the three-peat for the Lakers, and then it would have been the year Tim Duncan destroyed teams. Tim Duncan went on a rampage. Simmons pointed it out on his podcast. Tim Duncan beat healthy Shaq and Kobe in the playoffs, like by himself. And I don't know if you've ever read the book of basketball. That 2003 Spurs roster wasn't the best, because Tony Parker wasn't there yet. They relied on a lot of Steven Jackson. It was a lot of Steven Jackson for the 2003 Spurs. And Steven Jackson was good. Don't get me wrong. He's not on the level of Kobe or Shaq.
No, absolutely not. And who was their center? Was that Muhammad that year, or was it Oberto?
It might have been Rasho Nesterovic.
Oh, Nesterovic. I forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so obviously not a strong team.
And Tim Duncan just was on a mission. Let's see. Center. Oh, no, David Robinson and their two centers were David Robinson and Kevin Willis. And Kevin Willis was 41 years old.
Oh, jeez. Well, that had been toward the end of Robinson's career, too.
Let's see. It looks like, Robinson was their starting center for 64 games. He put up 8.5 points a game, 8 rebounds. He still almost had 2 blocks a game in 26 minutes a game.
Wow. All right. So he gave some quality minutes.
Duncan's stat line that year is crazy. 23 points a game, 3 blocks, 13 rebounds. It's just like 51% from the field.
Who won the MVP that year?
I believe it was Tim Duncan.
It better be with that stat line. I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think he won back-to-back MVPs, if I'm not mistaken, because
I
think he won in 02 and 03. And then, Nash won in 04 and 05. Or no, Garnett. I can tell you, I take a lot of Sporkle quizzes, so I can tell you who won MVPs every year.
I do too. And that's why I'm upset. Yeah, it was Tim Duncan in 02, 03.
Yeah, if he didn't finish his career with at least one, that would have been a travesty.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a travesty, really, that Shaq only finished with one, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the LeBron James debate is like, okay, yeah, he's the most valuable player, but, somebody else. Yeah, we'll go with somebody else here. I get it.
I'm interested to see how much time they devote to – because I'll talk about this at the when I can tell we're kind of getting to the end, but because I can kind of tell where the map is leading them in terms of the documentary. But I want to see how much time they devote to the 95 Magic series after MJ came back.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how much time they devote to Shaq. Because, They played the Magic in 95 and 96. 95, the Magic beat them. 96, Horace Grant got hurt, and the Bulls swept them. And I just want to see how much time is devoted to the Magic, because I felt like the Magic should have been the next contenders in the East, but Shaq wanted to go to LA.
Right. Yeah. I mean, imagine if they, and of course the that Magic Moment or this Magic Moment documentary on ESPN about Shaq and Penny is great. That's another good one to watch. You know, again, what if it's another? What if Penny Hardaway's knees didn't give out so soon? What if Shaq stayed? Yeah, I mean, those teams were good. You had Nick Anderson,
Horace Grant,
Steve Scott, or was it Steve Scott?
Dennis Scott.
A little Scott Skiles in there too. They had a solid roster. I think it could have been one of the best teams, one of the most legendary teams, if things had gone their way, and Shaq's ego didn't get in the way. Yeah, I do believe it was Shaq's ego that led him to LA, but that's again another subject for another time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't know that they'll spend a ton of time on it. But we might be surprised by that.
I'm just going to be curious to watch, because I feel like they haven't given Horace enough screen time. And what screen time they've given Horace, it has been to call the Bad Boy Pistons a bunch of bitches. And then it was to defend his allegations this week.
Yeah, for the Jordan Rules book, right? Which, again, Sam Smith was eating that up.
Oh, Sam Smith was enjoying himself some Sam Smith in this episode.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
I mean, do you blame him? The book was incredible. I've been telling you guys this now for a while. I've been trying to. The book is just like the level of access he got. It's really an incredible work of journalism, and it can't just be Horace Grant. It can't be. They have too much behind the scenes, coaches stuff. They have a bunch of, it's not just stuff only players would know. Because, I mean, how much around a basketball team would one player know?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be in all places at once. Do I think Horace did some of it? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're learning a lot about Horace Grant and, him being bothered by the Pistons and then him kind of leaking some stuff to Sam Smith. Yeah, he almost kind of comes out of this looking soft, The
one thing I gathered about Horace from the Jordan Rules, and the Bulls teammates kind of said this about him, is that Horace is just – I'm not saying he's, looking for attention, right? Because that gives off the wrong connotation. He is an incredibly emotional guy, for one. And for two, he wants to be appreciated. He was doing all of the dirty work. He was rebounding. He was offensive rebounding. I think I read off his offensive rebound stats on last week's podcast.
Yes.
He so much of the dirty work is what Horace did, and he just wanted to be appreciated for it because he felt like he was he shouldn't have felt like he was on Scottie and Michael's level, but he did. Because of the role he played. When you're playing that dirty man role and you're doing all the dirty stuff, in a way you're just as valuable as the top guys. Doesn't mean you are as good as them, but I could understand why the teammates would jump to the Horace Grant conclusion. But I think that a guy they're not mentioning, Craig Hodges, I think he brought up a lot to Sam Smith too, because Craig Hodges, nary a mention in this documentary, and Craig Hodges is a low-key blackball candidate that I'm not going to really get into, but Craig Hodges basically was just an incredibly outspoken person, and I don't think that there's any way he would have kept secrets from Sam Smith. But
yeah, we haven't got a lot of Craig Hodges. We haven't gotten any Craig Hodges.
They're not going to
mentions.
They're not going to mention Craig Hodges. He's not significant enough to mention. B, it's really just would be kind of a waste of everyone's time because everyone in the NBA has just kind of swept it under the rug because I think So this is what happened, or this is what I know. I know he was on the Bulls in 1991, and he won the 3-point contest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know the next year he wasn't on a team, and they brought him back for the 3-point contest because they didn't want to snub the defending 3-point contest winner, and he did the contest in an NBA jersey. And it's like, if that guy's, that shooters can play for as long as they want. That's just like, if you're good enough at shooting, I'm going to pull up Craig Hodges' percentages, because that guy was a bona fide shooter, but he just was, and that's something they bring up in the book a lot too, if I'm not mistaken. He was just incredibly outspoken, and it was kind of a headache. Okay, no, I got the years wrong. It was 91, 92 that he was on the Bulls. 92, 93 was the year he would have been in the dunk contest without a team. His career 40% three-point shooter. He shot 49% one year between two teams from three.
49%. You don't see that anymore.
If a guy shot 49% from three in any season, like Duncan Robinson, he's going to play till he's almost 40.
Right.
Like Kyle Korver.
Kyle Korver, Mike Miller, James Jones. He played more on the bench though. But
James Jones still got in games and made shots.
Yeah, Jason Capono, same thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're seeing in JJ Redick now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you can shoot, there's a spot for you in the league. But I don't want to get too deep on anything I don't know about, but Craig Hodges should have played his last season. He was 31. He
still had some of the tank.
But there was obviously something deeper there. So any other takeaways? I'm trying to think of what we haven't talked about so far.
Yeah, let's I wanted to talk about the Dream Team deflection of Isaiah. How they all just kind of swept that under the rug there, and it was they kind of left it as a consensus decision, not Jordan, not Magic, not any one person. They showed everybody having the riffs with Isaiah, and they thought it would throw off the chemistry, which I totally understand. I get that. I was just interested to hear what you thought.
So the Dream Team book is my main source of information on that, and from what I understand, Michael obviously didn't like Isaiah.
Right.
Magic. So Magic, have you seen the videos of Isaiah and Magic before games? They would kiss each other on the cheek.
Yep.
So they did that, right? Mm-hmm. But then Isaiah came out after. Isaiah's probably, other than basketball, Isaiah's best skill in life is just to stick his foot in his mouth. Because after Magic came out with HIV, Isaiah was like, well, it had to have been because he was having sex with guys. He said that on the record. And he's like, I don't know if I can condone homosexuality. And Magic was really hurt by that. So there's that. Larry didn't like him for obvious reasons. The Pistons and I feel like the Pistons and the Celtics had a worse rivalry than the Pistons and the Bulls, but that's just me.
I would agree with that, actually.
Scotty didn't like Isaiah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Barkley, I don't think, liked Isaiah. Pistons and the Sixers would have had a good rivalry at some point, too.
Yep.
And so it's just that's 5 members I mentioned right there. I don't know how Drexler felt, but the Pistons beat the year before. So I think they made the Dream Team selections in 91. The season before that one was the year that the Pistons beat the Blazers in the finals. David Robinson was a deeply religious man. I don't think he cared, if I had to be honest.
I don't think Karl Malone cared.
Karl Malone cared in the regular season.
Yeah, maybe so, yeah.
Karl Malone put the because Isaiah, I think, specifically spoke out about Stockton, and Malone stuck an elbow in his eye and gave him 44 stitches.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
So,
yeah. And then Laettner probably didn't care. He was just happy to be there.
I mean, Laettner is one of the greatest college players of all time, and I know why they put him on the team. He shouldn't have been on the team.
Nah, yeah, I agree with that.
It shouldn't have been, like, people are like, oh, then it should have been Shaq. It really shouldn't have been any college players if you were going to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because Shaq wasn't Shaq in college. Like, you could say what you want.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The thing about Christian Laettner, he was the best college basketball player, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for those basketball folks, go watch the I Hate Christian Laettner documentary. Watch it. It will show you how good Christian Laettner was in college. Like, people, you know why people hate Duke even today? Because of that guy. It's not because you really hate Coach K. It's because you hate Christian Laettner.
He didn't even have that bad of an NBA career. He was actually, like, if he played today, he'd have been a small ball 5.
Absolutely.
Like, and he would have, because he had a good shooting stroke, he would have stretched out to the 3-point line. I mean, he played for, let's see, 4, 4, 3. He played for 15 years.
Yeah.
He played for 15 years in the league. And I mean, his first. So from 92, 93 to 98, 99, he averaged 16 points a game and 8 rebounds. It's not great,
bad.
but it's not bad.
No.
You could do a lot worse.
Yeah.
It's like people just hate him because of college, and they're like, oh, he was such a bust. I don't know if you could call 16 and 8 a bust.
No. Is it what everybody expected? No. But he's not trash. I mean, he could have been a role player on a championship squad, if somebody would have ever picked him up like that. Yeah, do I think he was as, aggressive and physical like some of the other big name guys? No, but he could have definitely played a part. Yeah, I mean, you think of, maybe he could have been on that Barkley Suns team that went to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Come off the bench or something like that, give you some good minutes. I think it'd have been just fine.
This is going to be a really rapid jump, but the 93 final segment, they didn't mention Kevin Johnson at all. They didn't mention any Suns except Marley and Barkley. And that's
right.
Just Marley and Barkley. And Danny Ainge got interviewed, but that's because they already interviewed Danny Ainge for the 60-point game. I don't think they would have had Danny Ainge if he was just a Suns player.
No. I mean, that was kind of irrelevant, really. Yeah, I would have liked to hear from Kevin Johnson. I think Kevin Johnson's one of the most underrated point guards in league history. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. He choked away that game 6. We kind of talked about that in our group chat earlier. But, I mean, Kevin Johnson was good. Like, I love that guy. I love the way he played. I thought he was a good compliment to Barkley. Barkley's out there doing his thing, which, again, kind of showed, like, when we think of Charles Barkley now, like for our generation, everybody sees the guy on Inside the NBA, right? Mm-hmm. Just seeing those highlights, I think, changes everyone's perspective that really doesn't watch basketball or doesn't know a whole lot about the history of basketball. It's like, oh man, Barkley's a dog, man. Like he's going out there getting it done, and his athleticism. Yeah, you look at Charles Barkley now, you're like, man, no way. But Charles his athleticism was
me.
Right.
I'm taller than Charles Barkley. I'd give myself a good 6'4". He's my height.
Yeah, and he was able to go in there and be. I mean, what was his official? He played power forward, right? That was playing power forward at that size. But he was just so wide and so strong and so physical that he was able to play in that time.
And he's one of the best jumpers that you'll ever watch on a basketball floor. Like that dude had hops. Yes. I mean, you have to. I think for my money, he's the greatest rebounder of all time. I think to do it at 6'4", because he was listed at 6'6", but I think he was 6'4". His actual height was 6'4". Yeah, I mean, backs with heights.
Yeah, you know how the NBA does it. Oh, they're starting to fix that now. Mm-hmm. But that should put all Barkley versus Draymond Green arguments to rest. Okay, maybe Draymond Green has him on passing, maybe, but that really wasn't a point of emphasis for the 4 spot, back in the 90s, right?
And Charles Barkley was a really, there's a game I think you and I should do a rewatch pod on. It was, so it's 94. It's them versus the Warriors, and Barkley picks up, the easiest 56 points you'll ever watch. And it's just, he does it on Weber. Just hits him with turnaround after turnaround. I think you know what
I'm in for that. Yeah, I do. I'm in on that. If we want to do a rewatchable on that, I'm in on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that game, I mean, he's a really good passer. Draymond is a good player. Draymond's a great player to me. I thought in 2016 he's one of the most incredible defensive players I've ever watched. And Barkley didn't play. That's what he has on Draymond, or that's what Draymond has on Barkley, is that he's a killer defensive player, and Barkley was a really bad defensive player. But I mean, just because you're bad on defense, Iverson was bad on defense, Harden's bad on defense, LeBron's been bad on defense since 2012, but nobody wants to talk about that. They want to act like he got bad in defense in Cleveland.
I'll talk about it all day long if you want, AB.
We'll talk about it some other time, but all the greats, most of the greats slack on defense. I think that's what puts Mike over the top, is because he didn't slack on defense.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the big-time centers like Akeem and Duncan. I mean, Duncan's not technically a center, but he played center in effect for the most part. Those guys can't slack on defense because their job is defense first, then offense. But, power forward in the 90s, when you're Charles Barkley and you can put up 26 points a game, no, you don't need to worry about defense.
No, not really. Not really. Now, could you use it a little bit more against the Bulls? Yeah. I mean, I love them coming out and slapping the Bulls in the mouth right at the beginning of the series. Yeah, mm-hmm. I love that. And just the way they were able to battle. And then Charles at the, during his interview, giving props to Michael, saying, you know what, there's somebody finally better at basketball than me. I thought that spoke volumes to Michael. And again, his legend is growing as the documentary is going on. Mm-hmm. And so, which also leads me to believe that, so this was the 93 finals, right? Okay. So let's go back to the 92 Dream Team. So at that point, Barkley doesn't think that Michael Jordan is probably better than him at basketball, right? I think that's a fair statement to say, right?
I mean, given his quote, you can't really believe otherwise.
Right. Now, to be fair, to Barkley's credit, he was the leading scorer for the Dream Team, 18 points a game. So Jordan wasn't the leading scorer. It wasn't Pippen. It wasn't Magic. It was Charles. So I think, Charles is probably, if you told me that Charles didn't know that he was the leading scorer of the 92 Dream Team, I'd say you're lying. Of course he knew. Right. And going into the 93 finals, I'm not saying he thought it was easy, but he knew that he probably thought that he had a really good chance to beat these Bulls. But
I mean, he should have.
Jordan just came out and just did it.
I mean, he said one of the telling quotes for me from Barkley was I gave it my all, but Michael was just better.
Yeah, right. That's got to be so frustrating and demoralizing as a basketball player, right? You give everything, and then Michael does better than you. It's just, what are you gonna do at that point?
I'm looking at Charles Barkley's stats now. Dude was insane. From 87, 88, I'll give him till 95, 96. He put out 25 points a game, 11 and a half rebounds, 4 assists, a steal and a half, 54% shooting from the field.
Wow.
He only took 16 shots a game to get that 25.
Yeah, I think Barkley's another one of those guys that would translate to today's NBA really well.
But that's the thing. So this is I've let most of other people do the ranting on this podcast, most notably in the first episode. Caleb Lynn, for some reason, destroyed Buddy Hield. That rant was legendary. This rant is from me. You can't tell me that you take these great players from the past and stick them in today, and they wouldn't be better because of more spacing. Watch those games. There's no space on the floor. Watch an 80s Lakers-Celtics game. You have to deal with 6 bodies in the paint, and you're still making a crazy runner? Like Larry Bird would average 40, 11, and 11 today. Larry averaged, there wasn't much defense played in the 80s either, but at least there was space in the paint.
Well, yeah, and you can't get mauled in the paint anymore, like that. Otherwise, you're going to shoot free throws all game long. So you're telling me you're going to give all these players from the 90s an open lane to shoot floaters. Yeah. I think everybody's point averages, all of the legends from the 90s, their point averages increased by 10. Easy.
Magic is averaging a 20. Magic is doing a Westbrook basically. If he plays in today's era, he almost averaged a triple-double in the 80s. He would definitely average that today. Larry would average 35. Like I said before, Michael would average 45 points a game because no one would stop him.
You can't hand check him.
He was unstoppable in the 80s when he had hand check and brutal shoving. How are you going to stop him now? And so, that's my high horse, right? I think some guys would struggle. I think McHale would struggle because, you can double team the post easier now. Illegal defense isn't a thing anymore where the zone rules, you can actually play zone against big guys like that. Okay, whatever. Akeem would average probably... you see what Embiid and Jokic are averaging.
Right.
I read you Akeem's stats last week. Imagine what he'd average in this era. He'd average probably 5 blocks a game.
Yes, easy.
He'd be parked by the basket more. He wouldn't have to, for those that don't know, back in the 80s and 90s, before the 2000s, there was this little rule called illegal defense. And illegal defense meant you couldn't leave your man, just on an island. You couldn't go, if your guy was in the corner, in the 3-point corner, you couldn't go to the other side wing. You had to stay on your man in the corner. Now those rules are gone. So whoever's guarding you can stand wherever the hell he wants. And so that makes posting up a lot harder, which is why we've seen the post up pretty much die. And so I think some of those post up centers would die, but I think Akeem was such a good player that it wouldn't have mattered what area you put him in. He would still score however many points a game in this era. He was that. I think Akeem was a level above post scorers all time for me. Akeem, 1. About 50 spaces. McHale, 2. Duncan, 3. And I'm a big fan. Watching McHale's moves, I'm just a big fan. But he's not as fluid as Akeem. Akeem's just an incredibly fluid player. And so I think
the Dream Shake is an incredible move.
And it's just I don't think McHale was athletic. He would succeed on defense in today's NBA because he was that generation's definition of an athletic freak. But I don't think he dominates on offense in the same way that he did because there was one year he averaged 26 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I don't think he'd get there now. Because if you're going to dominate as a big man, you got to have range out to 3.
Yes, absolutely.
And I just don't see it with him. But that was a long rant. I'm a little winded after that.
All right, you seem a little tired after that one.
Anything else you got from this doc?
No, I think that was really all the stuff that stuck out to me, really.
I got one. This is just a little funny one. The guy with the security guard with the afro.
Yes. I'm sad he passed away apparently in January. Yeah, I'm sad that he didn't get to see himself on TV and get his moment. Absolutely. But yeah, I thought that segment was fun.
It was fun to see Michael Jordan be a person because that's Michael Jordan. If they did this documentary in 88, if they did all this footage in 88, it would be a lot different than it is in 98. Because that's one of my main takeaways. At the beginning of the 6th episode, he's just sitting in his hotel room. He's like, I just sit here and watch TV all day. And it just was that's depressing.
Yeah, right.
He can't get any space.
No.
And he's just that scene with the security guard made him look like a person to me, actually, because it was to me, one of the interesting things about watching this documentary is you're watching a person be the biggest person in the world and how they cope with that. And it's fair to say he struggled just like anyone else would. he handled it.
Yeah, I think he struggled, but his ability to compartmentalize everything. So his focus on basketball was so great. But yet he was doing all these other things. He was doing commercials. He was doing appearances. He was visiting sick children in the hospital. He was signing autographs. He was doing media. But then as soon as he was on the basketball court, none of that mattered. None of it. Like just his ability to focus on the task at hand is incredible. I mean, surely Nike had him running everywhere promoting these shoes, right? But he also knew that was a stream of revenue that would basically fund his retirement for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's got more money than he knows what to do with. Yes, but yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting point to talk about. But yeah, and you need to plug this quote in. I just thought of it. I'm going to see this money into my pocket now from the security guard.
You see how he just roll up there?
See, watch this roll right in my pocket.
That quote's got to be in there because that's a great quote. And just to see Michael Steeman in the chair and say, go protect the United Center. I thought that was a great sequence there.
And he's like, security. I need to call the security guards and security.
I thought that was really fun. He hit him with the Jordan shrug. I thought that was great.
It's too bad this is an audio medium, and I'm not talented enough to produce this as a video series. But I digress. I thought another funny one was at the beginning of the 5th episode when they're talking about him playing in the Jordan 1s, and he's like, my feet were bleeding, but I was playing too good. I couldn't take them off.
Right. And then the roast of Patrick Ewing after the game. You know, Patrick Ewing is just trying to be all cool, and Jordan says I had to go all the way back to 84. I thought that was a great quote too. I thought it was pretty funny.
It was, and the Knicks. Shout out Jacob Keith. Your team caught it real bad in these ones.
They did.
They caught it real bad. But it was, I mean, laughing at the Knicks, it's kind of like going back to normal. So
yeah. What else is new, right?
I mean, death, taxes, and laughing at the Knicks. What else has been true in our lifetime?
It's true. Sell the team, Dolan. Sell the team.
I mean, yeah, we're not gonna get into Knicks history because that would be I'm not trying to steal our boy Zach's thunder. He wants to do a podcast with Keith about the Knicks.
Can I just sit in on that? I won't say anything.
I'll stay on mute.
Yeah, I just want to sit in on that.
Zach, this is us pleading. I'm gonna send this to you.
Yes. Please come on the pod. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna sit here and laugh on mute the entire time. I just want to hear this.
Jacob, you too. Come on now.
Yeah, we definitely need a Knicks advocate, which are few and far between these days. I don't even think Spike Lee's a Knicks advocate anymore after what happened.
They're burning the bridges with Dolan, with Oakley. Oh, Oakley. I don't know why they didn't go to Oakley earlier in the documentary. Like, Oakley's just a gold mine.
Yes.
Of content. Like, remember was it the first or second episode when he was holding Pippen up against the chalkboard and slapping him?
Yeah.
I don't think we talked about that. That was just like, and do you listen to the Levitard show regularly?
Yes, I do. I try to, yes.
Do you hear the one where John Sally was talking about how they were at the racetrack and Kobe was like 27, I think? Or no, Sally said something to the effect of, Kobe at 27 would give you problems. That's all John Sally said. And Oakley punched him.
Yeah, I did see that. Yes, I did see that clip. That's funny. Dude, that's Charles Oakley in a nutshell, man.
There was another one from another one of the Levitard podcasts where they were playing Dr. J. I don't remember who told the story. But, you know, Dr. J is like all class.
Yes.
Right? And Dr. J did something. Dr. J cheated at golf. And they were playing in a pickup game later. And Oakley let Dr. J steal the ball. And he let him go out in transition, and he went from behind and basically punched him in the face.
That doesn't shock me
Dr.
one
J.
bit. Yeah, who wants to hurt Dr. J?
Charles Oakley does.
Charles Oakley, he's crazy, dude. He's a crazy guy. But yes, he is a gold mine. I wish they would have interviewed Larry Bird for the Dream Team stuff. You know, I would have really liked to hear his perspective. I mean, Magic is a gold mine as well. But I really wanted some Larry Bird in there.
Not to say Larry Bird isn't I think Larry Bird on the court was crazier than Magic and Michael, because some of the Larry stories are just incredible, and we could spend an hour just talking about our favorite Larry Bird trash talk stories.
Well,
but,
not to mention today is the anniversary of the left-handed triple-double that he dropped.
just like the fact that he just casually shot left-handed for a game because he was bored. Like,
yeah, well, he said, here's the quote. It was, "I want to save my right hand for the Lakers." So he made 10 out of 21 field goals with his left hand.
But I think Larry, it's safe to say, out of Magic, Michael, and himself, is the most measured of the three off the court. He's not gonna. He's the least crazy off the court. Now, it's not to say he's not crazy, because like Simmons points out, he's been barbing McHale for like 20 years now.
Yeah,
saying McHale should have been better when McHale did so much for the Celtics. But I think I would have liked to seen it too, because it would have been. It's nice to hear a perspective from not a crazy competitive person who was embroiled in the middle of all the attention.
Mm-hmm.
Because Larry, for all his warts and all his competitive warts, he knew his place. And he knew that he wasn't the alpha on that team. But Magic, when Michael said this was the 90s and Magic's like, what's that supposed to mean? Magic, you knew exactly what it was supposed to mean.
Yes, he did.
There's no other connotation for it.
No.
And just all those barbs that Michael and Magic threw at each other. Could you imagine if Larry was in his prime throwing those barbs?
I think that game would have been more explosive.
Especially whoever had Larry would have had the advantage.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Larry is definitely the wild card here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Larry's like, all right, fuck you, give me the ball. I'm gonna just dominate because I can. It's crazy because like Larry Bird broke his thumb playing softball, and he's like, I'm not shooting the same. And his high school coach was like, what the hell? You're fine. What are you talking about? He's like, Larry deformed his thumb basically because he tried to catch it barehanded, and he still was one of the best shooters of all time. Think about Larry Bird being a better shooter than he was.
Yeah, he might have shot maybe 60%.
He would have been. I mean, he's already pretty close to the greatest player of all time. Anyone who says Larry Bird wouldn't thrive in this era, that gets me crazy too, because like he probably wouldn't have thrived in the 2000s.
No. But today, yeah, I mean, his shooting ability, I mean, he probably would have extended his range out. He would have been shooting Steph Curry stuff before Steph Curry.
I'll tell one Larry Bird story. And my favorite Larry Bird story is they were playing the Pacers, and it was Chuck Persons' rookie year. Yes, this is a great story. It was Chuck Persons' rookie year. And he's like, hey, Rook, I got a present for you. And then the next time down the court, Person's on the bench. Larry stops right in front of where Person's sitting, and he pulls up, makes the shot, turns around and says, Merry Christmas, motherfucker.
Larry Bird is something else, dude. I'm telling you.
We could go for days. You should, if you haven't and you have an article or a athletic subscription, read the article they put out about Larry Bird. It was just full of crazy, crazy stories, and it was I laughed the entire time I read it.
Yeah, I wish we got more trash talk like that today.
Definitely.
Like I said last week, there's too much camaraderie around the league. Everybody's buddy. Everybody's in a wine club. Everybody's in a banana boat club or whatever. Everybody's in a 2K club. Not a fan. Not a fan.
Any other observations, Bryce?
I think I'm good for this week, man.
All right, so I'm going to make my predictions for what will happen the next 4 episodes because I think I know exactly where this is going.
Okay.
I think next week they start with Michael Jordan's dad's death because that's the only logical place they can go from 1993.
I would agree with that.
So that episode's going to be probably devoted mostly to that and then maybe the first round of the playoffs. Next episode's going to be devoted... Well, and I think that episode will also take time for the season where Scottie Pippen was by himself.
Yep.
And talk about that and Scottie. And I think next episode is going to be a real heavy Tony Kukoc episode. I think the episode after that, they're going to talk about, it'll be the 95 Jordan return and then the 96 and 97 Bulls and probably the second round of the playoffs. The last 2 episodes are going to actually be about the 97-98 season. So the 9th episode, I think, is going to be about the Pacers series. I think that gets its own episode.
I think so, too.
And I think the last episode is going to be about the Jazz in the finals.
I'm also hoping we get some Space Jam stuff. Sorry, I was just looking up to see when it came out. It was 96. I'm hoping we get a little Space Jam in there. Yeah,
I think that's not unreasonable. I think the next episode is going to be the best one, if I had to guess. Because they'll be talking about Michael's trials and tribulations. So they already delved into it on this one. I think it'll be more in depth as to what he went through when his dad died. So
yeah, and I want to hear from Michael. I want to hear from, we've obviously there's interviews, from past, but it's been a while now. I want to hear what he thinks about today. If he's going to double down on the exact same stuff he said back then, or if we're going to get a little more information now about what happened. Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. Obviously, I don't think we're ever going to get the straightest story, whether it had to do with his gambling or not. I think it'd be earth-shattering if we did, if Michael were to come out and say that. But I don't think he will. But yeah, I'm hoping for really good story on that. I'm hoping for some Space Jam stuff. I'm hoping for his struggles in baseball. Yeah, I know they did a Jordan Rides the Bus documentary, which is okay. Not the best one in the world, but I'm hoping, to hear a little bit more about that. And of course, Pippen trying to be the man. So yeah.
Hear from one of your managers, Terry Francona.
Yes, Terry Francona, which actually I have on the television right now, 04, Game 4, Red Sox Yankees. So a good old Tito. So yeah, I think that'll be interesting.
And then I didn't really prepare you with any questions because we're doing this weekly and it's hard to come up with questions. But what pop culture have you consumed since last week?
Since last week, brother, I'm on Community. I'm on the Community train right now. I think it's hilarious. I love Chevy Chase. Obviously, Donald Glover, a.k.a. Childish Gambino. Joel McHale. I think it's a hilarious show. I think it's an interesting concept. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been on recently. But I haven't had a lot of time just because of school and finals and stuff. And Sundays are something that I really look forward to. But yeah, I just really was watching some Community and Last Dance.
So I feel I should answer. I finally finished The Wire. I've been recommending it on every podcast for since I started it, really. And I finally finished it. And now I'm taking a break from shows, even though I want to get into a new one like ASAP. I'm giving myself some time to do finals and stuff. I'm playing Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a
great game.
Great game. When it first came out, but it's just so much fun. I'm really enjoying like the hunting and I'm not gathering probably as many herbs as I should, but
Oh, it's a great game. I loved it. It kept me busy for a while. I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty. Me and my brother, we play a lot at night. So, and I play with some of my cousins as well. So a lot of Call of Duty, a lot of Community, obviously consume The Last Dance every week. That's kind of what I've been doing.
It's nice to have something to Sundays are busy days now.
Yes.
Jordan documentary. So I think that's everything. Please like, subscribe, and download where you can. And Bryce, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Alex.